Welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq. Joining me is Rowan Trollope, CEO of Nasdaq-listed Five9, to discuss how the company is facilitating new work trends, including home shoring jobs, skill specialization, and a new gig economy for remote workers. Rowan, it's great to see you again. Welcome back to Trade Talks.
Good to see you, Jill. Thanks for having me today.
And Rowan, Five9 is one of those companies that have been a beneficiary from the work from home environment, although I would argue it's more appropriate to call it the work from anywhere environment at this point. Remind the audience where Five9 sits in the ecosystem of tech.
Sure. So we are a contact center as a service, and that's think about when you call or message or email a company that you want to do business with as a consumer. That from the moment the phone rings or the email system hits the agent, that's our software that handles all of the routing. Typically, that's handled by legacy on-premises hardware-based systems, and we're a modern cloud company. Our Five9 was born in the cloud, so agents log into a web-based portal, and then that gives them the ability to connect to your customers, and everything's configured through our website. So that's what we do. We call it an engagement platform.
Right. So then I would imagine the pivot from COVID-19, as we discussed last time, was relatively smooth because there was not much that you had to pivot since it existed virtually anyway.
That's right. So the struggle a lot of customers had is they had phone systems in buildings and agents sitting in those buildings. And what do you do when you need to send them all home? For Five9, that was really not a problem, and the other cloud vendors as well, because agents just log into their web browser and they plug in a USB headset into their computers. So essentially, almost all agents on our platform were able to transition to work from home, virtually overnight. And it's been a very smooth transition from our customers. And frankly, that awareness of the sort of, the cloud being really well suited to this business continuity use case that we've all seen with COVID has driven the awareness for and the demand for cloud even higher than we had seen it before.
Right. And let's talk about some of those trends. Is work from home here to stay? Do you think it's going to be more of a hybrid role? Will we go back to the old normal? Many people I meet with, they kind of like this hybrid choice that you have.
Yeah, I think the choice is going to be key. I just was on the phone with one of our customers in the healthcare space. They told me that their direction is going to be hybrid. They do have some folks that are in the office today, but they anticipate an 80% will go to 80% of agents continue to work from home. But what they recognize, though, is that the home is always a great workplace for everyone. And so if you live at home, if you have roommates, these are generally contact center jobs, are generally entry level, and so they may not have the best at-home work environments. And so I think you do want to be able to give agents that choice.
Right. And a number of the trends that we saw as a result of COVID-19 were perhaps some that would have been 3 to 5 years out, right? And they've all been accelerated forward. So when you look a little bit longer term, what are some of the, what's your outlook on the future going forward? Is it going to be, we know the product exists, but is it going to be more about experience now?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the transformations that we saw happen virtually overnight during COVID was the shift towards e-commerce. And if you think about it, especially in a retail environment, if you're no longer able to serve your customers because your store is closed down, a lot of those customers still went to the same brands. They just went to their e-commerce storefront. So we saw, essentially 10 years of e-commerce growth happen in 3 months. So just this real dramatic shift of consumer behavior. And what that does when you're engaging with a business directly sort of online in an e-commerce environment, you're going to be engaging. If you have a problem with the product or a question with the product, you're going to be connecting to a contact center agent. Whereas in a retail environment, you'd be connecting with a retail, employee. And so that has actually shifted fairly dramatically the traffic on our platform up and to the right. So we've seen huge increases and spikes in usage on our platform from our customers that were in, call it, affected industries. So even if you saw retail overall decline, the percentage of business or the proportion of their business that was happening in e-commerce went up, and that's actually driving more contact center volume. So we saw the number of agents spike and the volume on our platform spike as a result of that. And I would say this, what that sort of is creating is a condition where the contact centers for many companies has become the front door to your business. And it's really important that front door is always open, that it works, that you can actually get a hold of the company to do business with and so on. So it's no longer a secondary, sort of a place that you might want to connect if you're talking about a retail environment, but it's the primary way that that consumers want to connect. And I would also say that the demands on the contact center have gone up very dramatically in terms of the quality of experience that people expect. You're expecting to have a very personalized experience as a consumer when you engage with a brand. You want them to know who you are. You want them to recognize, I was just on your website browsing around and looking at product X, and be able to sort of very quickly get you to the answer that you want, as opposed to sort of treating you like a number that I think many companies have done historically. So the expectations on a dramatically better customer experience are there now from end users, and that's driving, I think, businesses to invest even more in their contact center infrastructure.
Yeah, that's really some good points that you brought up. And I think that's why holiday 2020 is going to be really interesting to watch, to see if any of that foot traffic does return to traditional brick and mortar, because you know what, it's been 6-7 months since we've been home. That's a long time for consumer behavior to shift. We know how it adds more time back into our lives by not having to go to the physical store. It's more convenient. It's from a contact perspective certainly more safe, but we're certainly conditioned to incorporate that into our lifestyles more so when you hear people talk about going back to the old normal. I don't think that's going to happen. I think that you're going to continue to see the growth that we're digitally, because consumer behavior has shifted.
You're spot on, and I think you'll see a hybrid model. So, for example, every morning I go down to my local coffee shop, Phil's, here in San Francisco, and I get a coffee. And the old model was I went into the store, I waited in line, I placed my order, they gave me a coffee. The new model is I place the order on my phone, and I go down, and then they hand me the coffee right when I get there. So it's much more efficient. And just yesterday, I had the occasion to provide some feedback to my coffee shop. So they asked me at the end of the experience in the app, they automatically popped up and said, please give us some feedback about your experience. And I actually gave them a little note, a suggestion for them to improve, forget what it was. And immediately they got back to me in app with a message saying, thank you so much for your suggestion. We're working on it, blah, blah, blah. So in my world, that's a hybrid experience. I've augmented, I'm still going to the shop, but I'm using and engaging with the brand now through a digital experience in addition to a physical experience. So I think holiday 2020 could see retailers really leveraging a hybrid of both electronic technology as well as in-person technology to deliver something that's really a better experience overall for customers.
All right, Rowan, great to catch up with you as always. Thanks for joining us on Trade Talks.
Thanks, Jill.
And thanks for joining me. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.